I worked for 2 years for Local 400, and they didn't want to. They had to ask for money. They didn't have much money. They had to ask the International for money to hire me, and the International president was, from here at that time, George Hardy, and he was for the war, and supported it, and the unions were supporting it, but he did give them money. He says, well, I'll give you money for this guy, but he has to bring in 2 members a day if you want to continue to get the stipend, that we're giving you. So I had to do that for 2 years. 2 years, yeah, right. I know. I went out the first day and I signed up 10 people. I brought them in. The secretary was there. I said, "There you go. I'm starting out with." She says, "Give me 2." She says, "You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow." right. And it went on like that. But we organized. We just kept organizing and bringing in new groups and things. So I didn't have a problem. But I left the union because we had a strike, and we shut down everything in the city just about because we had the Muni drivers supporting us. Just you show up with a sign and we're out. And they stopped everything, and the hospital, then the nurses went out, and the teachers supported us and things. So,
what year was this?
That was 1969 or 70. Alioto, I think, was in. Yeah, I think it was around there. Because I left the union. I got in a fight with the director, and he'd had a drinking problem, and it wasn't working out. So I told him and he says, "I'm going to fire you." And he gave me this letter, and I gave it to the board, and the board overturned him and said, "No, you're not going to fire him. You better be careful." And and I left anyway. I just said, "It's enough." And they put the union in trusteeship, and to get rid of him. So I left, and I went and was hired with the Model Cities program in San Francisco in the Mission District. They were opening up child care centers, and they wanted. I was a social worker, so they wanted a social worker to hire some of the staff, for these children's centers, and we opened 5 centers, and it was great, and I did that, and then I got a call from Local 390, which is in Oakland. And I knew them, and they said, we want you. And I said, okay. I'm trying to figure out why do they want me when there's all these other people, But they were forced because the membership said the next person you hire is going to be a minority because you don't have it. And that was really what started it for the unions. I was hired. And we put together a multicultural ad hoc. It was a caucus. Yeah, we started off with a caucus and talking about hiring and promotionals, and we were pushing that in our contracts. And they had a program. It was called CETA. CETA, and I can't remember what it, Employment Training Act or something like that. They were hiring all the minorities. And we were saying, great, and some of these guys had never worked a day in life. They never had a job, but they signed on. They wanted a job, and we had to train them about work because they didn't know that you should have a clock to get up in the morning, So I bought clocks for a lot of them and things, so they would learn how to do it. And it was a very successful employment program that they put on. And we put in our contracts that they would have first shot at permanent jobs. So a lot of them just stayed on until they retired. Yeah, it was really, really good. But we kept pushing for the improvement of the hiring and eliminating any kind of discrimination or segregation. And it became the other unions picked it up across the country and adopted it, the plans. We'd bring all of our SEIU people in, from the state, and we'd have a yearly